introduction. Doug, did you want to?
Okay.
Welcome. Welcome, each and every one of you. We are delighted to have you here with us today for our Global Chamber Author Series. And we meet the third Wednesday of each month, including to the end of the year. And we come together because we are a vibrant community of writers worldwide where we connect, we share our diverse experiences, and we inspire through books, workshops, collaborative projects, and leadership initiatives. So today, we can guarantee you, if you show up and if you engage, that you're going to definitely get some stories, some tips, and some techniques that you can walk away with to improve your authorship, your writing skills, or if nothing else, just storytelling. And so I'll give you a little bit of background on Global Chamber Author Series. It started over 3.5 years ago. I had Gloria's picture here with Gloria Peterson as the founder and CEO. And it has just blown into something magnanimous that we continue to grow with over 100 authors. And today, our facilitator is Lainey Denslow, and our guest authors will be Stephanie Oster and Kristina Wachter. And so I'm going to let her take it from here. Hear ye, Lainey Denslow.
Thank you, Dana. Good morning, everybody. It's really exciting to be here with you and with two amazing authors. So let me do the briefest of brief introductions of our authors because mostly we're here to hear from them today. So let me start with Stephanie Austin, who is, among other things, the executive director for the Global Chamber Dallas-Fort Worth, and she's also an expert in healthcare operations, which you can get the details from her about that. But today we're here to focus on her as an author and on her book, My Will or His Will, Who is Your GPS? And she's joined by Kristina Wachter, our other author today. Kristina is an associate professor at the University of Utah in the School of Business and president of Cross Cultural Connections. And the book of hers that we're talking about today is Culture Spin. Mind you, both of these authors have written more than one book. So we are choosing just to focus on one of them today. And I asked them because I was curious about them as not just authors, but readers. What have you got in a little stack? What do you hold that when you have time to read, what do you read? And Stephanie said she has several James Patterson books that she's waiting to read. But when she's not sneaking away to a cozy cottage and reading James Patterson, she's likely to be reading nonfiction, devotionals, self-help, and historical books. And in a way, she shares that interest with Kristina, who's now reading some historical fiction about strong women who made a difference in World War II. And she has a favorite author in that genre, Kate Quinn. So that's a little bit about our authors that you won't find about them on LinkedIn, but we kind of thing we care about. But enough about that. Let's hear them talk about their books. And I want to start out with Stephanie asking you, why this book? Why now? And who's your target reader? And after Stephanie shared, then we'll turn to Kristina with those same questions. So Stephanie, start us off.
Well, thank you. I appreciate, Lainey, the invitation from you and Dana, and also being able to be on the panel with Kristina. It's such a pleasure. And seeing everyone here today. So thank you so much to this author series. As Dana mentioned, this is a very dear series. And Gloria, thank you so much for being the founder and creating this. And I have a girl crush on Gloria. She's such a sweetheart, and our interaction a year ago is just everlasting. And she also, in the back of my mind, has pushed me on some new projects that we'll talk about later on. But why my will or his will? Who is my GPS, and why now? to talk about that, many times in life, we need direction. We're not sure which way we're going. We use the GPS all the time on our phones and our cars. Back when, before we had that, we would go online and print it out off of the MapQuest. You remember that? We need guidance and direction, sometimes just to go different places. And so many times as I've been impressed to write a story of something that's going on in either my life or other people's life, or things that's going on in the world, who is your GPS is giving people guidance on what to do in different times in their life. And so as God had impressed upon me with the different nuggets, I will call them spiritual nuggets. And I really felt they were for me, or I would share it with different people. And when I share it with them, come to find out, they would end up sharing with the masses. And I just thought I was sharing with maybe 5, maybe sometime 20, to find out it was being shared with hundreds of people. And people were like, why are you not writing a devotion? I said, no, this is just for me and to share with others. And so this is the second of the first series of who my will or his will. And as I started writing this or being inspired, sometimes you come to a fork in the road and you need to know which direction to go. And many times we don't know. And as you use your GPS on your electronic systems, it gives you guidance. Well, God is my guidance. He's gives me the direction where I need to go. Do we often get off course? Of course, because we want to do our own will and not his will. So when you go back to basic, is who's your GPS? God is your GPS. When we seek him, we get fulfillment. Doesn't mean that we don't get disappointments, but we get fulfillment because we know that we're going in the right direction. A couple of chapters in the book is God's faithfulness. God is faithful. And he's faithful when we're seeking his guidance and his counseling. One story in the Bible that I like was the Good Samaritan. And I think we've all, even if you're not a Christian, people have heard about the Good Samaritan, right? And who would imagine that the person, I would just say he probably is a homeless, hurt person. So grateful that this Good Samaritan came by. A couple of people came by before and ignored him, but the Good Samaritan went down a path that he was guided by God, and he was able to help this person. And so again, it goes back to making some choices, seeking God, finding joy in the midst of even going down the wrong path in my devotional. So that's one of the reasons. Then my target audience, I would say, early on in my writing, I was like, oh, it's for everyone. But it's not always for everyone. It's for those who are interested. Well, a couple, one who's interested, who are Christians, and two, who's looking for just a little nudge as they go walk through life and go through the journey of their life. So I'll pause there.
Thanks, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
And Kristina, do you want to pick that up about why did you write this book? Why now? And who's your target reader?
Yes. In fact, you set me up so well, Stephanie. Thank you, because this is working. The reason I started on my culture spin book is related to, again, what I felt inspired to do, what I felt was necessary to do. And, I too agree that I'm with you in working according to God's will. And in looking at my particular profession, I have taught and done research for years, interacting with business people and working as a consultant in various parts of the world. And I've taught in various parts of the world. And looking at the state of the world today, I think, what's all this negativity? That's not who we all are. This is who gets the press. What we need to do is bring people together and bring people together in a way that changes the trajectory of our world in a positive direction. And I've taught my students that for years, and I've written textbooks on it. But then I thought, okay, I need to get this out there. I need to get this into an accessible book that gets to the people who are in the trenches, instead of waiting until my students graduate and take this idea of connectivity and business success through human connection to people who are actually in business. So with that, based on my research, I interviewed hundreds of people from every single inhabited planet, business leaders and people from every walk of life in business, and put that together with the research and the various things that I've taught from an academic level into a short 130-page book that brings together a sort of playbook. It's a toolkit that I provide someone. I use the word playbook instead of GPS, but I actually do call this a cultural GPS as well. It helps people start where they are, recognize their positions, and what they can do differently to not only have business success, but personal success through human connection. And I show them step by step how to do this by building cultural bridges. So that is why I thought right now our world needs this. And I've spoken to so many of you, and I'm also so honored to be with you, Stephanie and Lainey and Gloria, Dana, all of you. Everyone that I have met through this author group is so impressive. Every author that I've heard, I'm thinking back to the Juneteenth author series, and that was so inspiring. So I'm very glad to be part of this tribe.
Okay, so I'd say we're all glad to be part of this tribe together. And it's interesting, isn't it, that neither of these authors knew they were going to be on this series together. And just looking at the titles, you wouldn't have the idea that there was this deep connection of attitudes and caring about people that links these two books together, even though they seem so different. And that's one of the joys of being part of the Global Chamber, isn't it? That we share things that we're not likely to share with other people. So moving on, what's the next question? You have this idea about writing a book, but how did you do it? People who are on this call and all the people who are going to listen to the recording are going to be wondering, okay, did you do it with a pen and paper, a quill and ink? Did you type it? Did you dictate it? So my question to each of you, and this time, Kristina, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Stephanie, is what was your process to write this? And with that, I'd also ask you, when and where did you write? I still have a vision in my head of some woman who said she wrote at 5 o'clock in the morning in her closet because that was the only private time and place she could find in her busy household. So where were you and how did you get your ideas down into a form that could be published ultimately? So Kristina, let's start with you and then ask Stephanie.
Okay, if only I were that organized to get up every single morning at 5 o'clock and start writing, but I'm not that disciplined. I have so many things going on. Most of the time I do it when I can fit it in, but I try to do it, all the writing that I do, shortly after I exercise. And even if it's just a walk. In fact, walks can be very productive in terms of getting ideas. And I I carry a little notebook with me if I'm on a walk or a run, and I stop and jot down things that occur to me, little bits of inspiration or ideas that I have while I've got this endorphin rush going. And coming back, having the feeling of accomplishment from exercise or a walk, I'm in a good mental space, and that opens my creative ability. So because I exercise at different times of day, I write at different times of day, and sometimes it's just when I can get it in. But you asked about the method, Lainey, and the method varies by genre. So, for example, you can see behind me, there's my book. The other book that we're not talking about is My Friend, Mon Enemy, and that's a piece of women's fiction. And I was flying home but it has to do with cultural competency and people adapting and being able to work within new cultures, cultural immersion. I wrote this several years ago, and it's weird how it kind of set the stage on in a fictional way for my other book. But I was flying home from France, and it was the worst turbulence I had ever experienced. The plane was shaking. I had a Diet Coke on my tray. It spilled off. The baggage bins started opening and things were falling out all over the place. And then this this story occurred to me. And I thought, okay, it deals with women in different stages of life and women's relationships with others and the evolution of love for family and friends. And it just came to me like that. And it was almost like a picture. And sometimes on some of the articles that I've written, I dream about these things and I wake up and I just jot down some ideas that have happened for me. Now with Culture Spin, it was a little different because I'm used to primarily writing in an academic sense. And I needed to write something that was accessible and that was not written as a textbook. And so this was very hard, but at the same time, it was hard for me to make the paradigm shift. And I'm used to doing so much research, justifying it, showing where my piece fits into the conversation of the topic. And so getting to the authentic voice was where I was so grateful for the people that gave me insight throughout the world so that I could include their stories and what they did as actual people, going from Jane Kaburu, a wonderful woman who lives in Kenya, and she has developed a business. It's called Photo History Tours. It's a safari group in Kenya. But this woman is amazing. She was one of the first women in her country to get a bachelor's degree in the late 80s, early 90s. And then there was
Christina, I'm
I'm
gonna rudely interrupt you and bring you back because we could listen to you all day long. I'm sure share your stories.
I said, you got to stop me because I'll get into my stories. You've got to do this.
You got to come back. You got to come back.
Okay.
We want to know, we see a clear visual of how you got the idea for this book, but to turn it into something that was going to get published, did you pen, paper, computer, dictate?
I use the computer. Fiction, I use longhand. With nonfiction, I use a computer, and that way I can cross-check the references. And I brought an editor on board who would check for, she called it dumbing it down, but it's not dumbing it down. It's just writing it in a different voice. And I had to keep making revisions for that.
Okay, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So you're the person with the computer and you write after you exercise, which is really interesting and maybe inspiring to all of us. And Stephanie, let me switch to you. So what's your process? Are you after you exercise or 5 o'clock in the morning or when the girls are all gone doing something else and you have a few quiet minutes?
So my process, it varies. It can be early mornings. Sometimes it will be that 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night with a scripture or something on my mind someone may have shared with me, and then it's almost like a computer. Things just start going and I'm flipping pages in the Bible and I'm reading and I'm kind of just cross-referencing. So it can happen especially in the middle of the night. I get my phone, my little handy dandy phone here. And there's a notes section and I go in and put notes. There's times that I'm journaling throughout the day or later that night I'm journaling. So it could be early morning, it could be late in the afternoon. I'm pen, paper, I'm cell phone, I'm on the computer. I use a very different techniques in capturing my thoughts in regards to writing. I have a new style now, but I'll share that later.
Oh no, share. Okay, well,
I can share it now if you want.
Yeah, I'll share it now because I don't know how much, later is a long time and a lot of good stuff to do. So if you've got a new way of doing it.
So I do have a new way. I signed up to join a course called the 90 Days to Manuscript, and that's what Dana teaches that.
Right.
And she's been doing it for years and I never signed up for it. And by the way, she is my sister. And I never signed up for it, but this last time I did. And and I won't talk about the class, I'll just talk about the technique. She taught us the Pomodoro technique, and it's a game changer. And you intentionally take 20-25 minutes, uninterrupted time with music that is very, in the background, soft music, and you will not realize how much you end up writing in that 25 minutes. I don't even want to stop in the 25 minutes. But the Pomodoro method is you write for 25 minutes, you stop. You write and you stop and you get so much done. So I love that style. And several of the people that are in the program have also mentioned how great that style is. And it's allowed me and afforded me to write more, not to edit. This is not an edit. It's just to allow those creative juices to flow.
Okay, well, that's terrific to know.
Mhm.
We learn so much from each other. Now, here's one of the, I think, hardest things when you're an author is letting somebody else read what you've written, at least for me. So I guess speaking for myself. So let's continue with Stephanie for a minute, and then I'm going to come back to Kristina, our back and forth of at what point in your writing do you let somebody else read it, maybe, and who might that be, that first reader?
So I learned that really you need to let your editor probably to read that first, because there's some things that need to be changed. You also need to make sure you copyright your material, because you don't want just anyone reading it, even though you're still in the editing stage. So my first readers now is an editor. It used to be a couple of friends that were avid readers. But now it's the editor, and then the people that I would get to read it, because I want some of their testimonials before I published, will be someone similar to this panel here of global authors, you know, because you guys have the expertise. And then also other people who are, I have one person, he's been an editor and had his own published company. He was my instructor in college back in the day when I was an undergraduate. And he has volunteered to read my book and provide testimonials and provide some insight.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And
You're welcome.
Kristina, who's your reader? Who's your first reader? Who do you go to?
My first reader is usually my mom. My mom, she's a former professor too at Arizona State University. And so, but she's honest, and she has her PhD in English and literacy. So I give it to her first of all, but then I know that's not unbiased. So I have a couple of writing groups and friends that I belong to. So I get feedback from them, and they can be very brutal. But honest, and it's helpful. And then I send it out to experts in the field for their review, as I did with Culture Spin to, for example, people from the Global Business Travel Association and actually people that I interviewed as well.
Okay.
Can I add, also forgot to mention, in my class, we have writing partners. That's in my course that I'm in with the 90 days. So that person reads it as well. And then we also send it to the Coach Dana, to review it to read it as well. I forgot about those two other people.
Okay, so it's a variety, and
Yes.
and that's impressive. That's really impressive. All right, so we now have something that we've read. Who's going to publish your book? So Kristina, let's focus on this book, but maybe you've used different publishers for different, how do we get it out there to the public? So traditional publisher, self-publish, a consultant, what's been your choice? And then Stephanie will come to you.
Amazon. It's self-published on Amazon, and I've done that actually with both books. Prior to this, and with my own novel, I worked with various publishers, but at the time I was really I didn't take rejection very well at all at the time, so I knew that Amazon would not reject me. So but as far as how the book market has evolved in the last few years, I'm on Amazon, and I can promote it the way that I want. I can put it in the groups that I want, and in doing so, my book has gained international bestseller status in a couple of different categories that are very
Okay.
And that was it. I was honestly ending there.
And that's good, because I want to come back to the marketing, but I want to finish this part. And looking at the group, I think there are probably going to be some questions, so I want to have some time to do that. So Stephanie, publisher, who have you used?
So when I published my books initially, I did self-publishing. And so I did that on Amazon as well. When I did the revision, I had a publishing company to help with some of the revision, but I still end up doing it on Amazon, so self-publishing as well. Going forward, I probably do the same. I'll do self-publishing. there's a couple of projects that I'm working on that I might look at a large publishing company to help, to help publish my book. But that's later on down the line.
All right. Thanks to these two who have answered so much in so little time. We have a few minutes to take some questions. So if you have a question, would you raise your virtual hand? And if you don't, then I'm just going to keep asking them questions. So anybody have a question so far? No, just kind of taking in all this great information. All right. So let's go back and pick up where I cut off Kristina again and talk a little bit about marketing. So it sounds like marketing on Amazon has been useful for you. So do you want to pick up where you left off?
Yeah, a couple of helpful things that I did. I promote my book in the process as I'm developing it on LinkedIn and Facebook, and do surveys, with title for the helps. I send it to professional associations and get people to vote on the book title or the cover, and get some at least talk going about it beforehand. And then once I have it on Amazon, I do a virtual book launch and set the date, and I have some book giveaways associated with that. But the important thing in Amazon is to select your categories that you place it in very carefully, and then you get bestseller status right away. So urban economics is an example of one of my categories where I hit #1 status, and then I post that on my social media.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Okay, Stephanie, what about you?
I'm sorry. I was trying to press the unmute button. The phone is ringing, so I didn't hear your question. So I was trying to hit it off. Repeat the question if you don't mind.
So the question is, what kind of marketing do you do? And maybe I think Kristina sort of answered the part of when do you start marketing with her early surveys of letting people vote on the title and vote on the cover. Am I right? So sort of when do you start marketing, and what kind of marketing have you done? Do you do? Will you do?
So I'm smiling because before I did it kind of willy-nilly. But now getting trained, and I'm not trying to put a plug in for Dana's course. I'm just telling you the tools that I've garnered from doing that. We started advertising on social media platform, one, letting people know that a book is coming. Because that's your tribe, and social media is your accountability partners. They're like, oh, great, when is it coming? And then I start promoting when I'm a third of the way and when I'm close to finish. And so, and in doing that, being intentional with the picture that you post so that it's inviting, intriguing, and asking people. And so I do the Facebook, I do the LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, even TikTok. I haven't done TikTok just yet. And so that's what I do. And in regards to the second part of the question was, what was the second part of the question?
I think you got it, but in the meantime, I've thought of another question. So thanks for the lead in.
Okay.
So do either of you do a specific website for your book, or do you just let it appear on LinkedIn, Facebook? So Stephanie, you're nodding.
Yeah, I'd love to answer that. I did a website for my book before, okay, on My Will, His Will, and I ended up naming the site My Will, His Will. But in actuality, my books titles are going to change, so it really shouldn't be the name of your book. I got some insight about creating a landing page. I do have a Twitter, I do have an Instagram, so I'm able to still steer people. And my Instagram is My Will, His Will. So I need to kind of probably change from that. And it's going to probably be more my name, Stephanie Austin, the author. So therefore, no matter what I do, what I write, what I create is underneath that brand. The other thing is Kristina said that people will vote on the title and vote. It all depends for me. The 2 books that I have, it was inspired by God. So God gave me the title. So it wasn't about getting people to vote for my title or my subtitle. And he even gave me the image. So typically my titles and my image is inspired and is already given to me from God. So therefore I'm not vetting it with other people to say, is this the right title? It is the right title because he gave it to me. So
Simple.
yeah.
Okay, now back to you, Kristina. Website specific to one of the books or not?
Oh, no, I have it on a page on my company website, but I want to do landing pages for books in the future, and I have not yet done that, but that is on the to-do list.
Okay, that endless to-do list that we all have when there's a book involved and a business involved too.
Can I add also, Lainey, so in advertising, on social media platforms, you're able to then start creating your email list because people are commenting saying, oh, I can't wait. And so you start creating your email list. And again, that's a tool that I learned along the way.
All right. Okay. So, another question is, what do you want readers to remember out of your book? Is there one thing you want readers to remember from your book? You both have a vision of who's going to be reading it. So when they put down culture spin or put down, now I can't, all I can remember is who is your GPS, my will or his will, who is your GPS? Is there something that you want a reader to remember about your book?
Do you want me to answer first?
Sure.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. I want them to remember that I'm the author who is passionate about inspiring others and offering them the tools to rise above circumstances that they face.
And Kristina?
I want my readers to recognize that the best type of prosperity is through peace, and that by making human connection, you're capable of it. You need to recognize and own who you are in order to go forward for profit in a peaceful manner, even though it's the rough business world.
Okay. So very thoughtful visions, very caring visions for your reader of what they'll get from your book, which captures the sense for both of you talked about earlier on about how much you care about the reader and what you're trying to convey to them. Gloria, I see that you wrote a note about a question. I can't read the whole thing. Do you want to just ask your question? And you're
I got it. I got it. Okay. The question I was asking is, I think this is, I like to have authors share with this, what I'm going to ask, share this part, because I think as we read books, we have a deeper connection to the author as a result. So the question is, what was going on in your life that inspired you to even write your first book? And then once it inspired you to write your first book, why did you pick that particular topic at that time? And I think answering this question gives people like me, as I read a book, makes me feel closer to you. Make sense?
Yes. I'll answer it. I go during the course of my life, there's always things that's going on. I'm a mother of 3 daughters. So that right there should set the stage in itself, right? I'm the oldest of, 5 sisters. That set the stage. And then also during the time working in an organization in corporate America, relationships in life, health in life, deaths in life, everything. And then also the beautiful things. There's also joy. There's also celebrations in life. And so when I was writing, sending out these nuggets, I wasn't thinking it was going to be for me to write a book. They were spiritual nuggets of my way of encouraging with others or sharing with them whatever may be in my mind. And that question kept saying, why don't you write a book? And I'm like, no, no, no. And then right on the cusp of COVID, now this book was in the making for several years. I never was trying to make a book. I pulled all that together during the COVID, right before COVID. And that's when the first book came out. So it was different. And then also other people, sorry, I have a friend's puppy. Other people were sharing things that they were going through in life. And so therefore, the book is not just about me. There's other people's stories and praying for them that inspired the spiritual nuggets that was coming my way. Or either there were times that God just woke me up and just shared a scripture with me and I just started writing. So there's a variation of different things that was going on during that time that inspired it, but I end up publishing it right on the heels of COVID.
Okay, thanks. And Kristina, same question to you.
I talked about the situation in France when I wrote my first book, but just it's interesting because COVID also, I think it has played a role in so many of our lives, but the separation and the quarantine time really brought home the fact that we need to connect. And so I put together the pieces. I mean, reading all the stories and talking to people, the loneliness that we experienced. We prosper when we connect with each other. We need each other. Everyone influences someone else and someone else and someone else, and we need to connect with other people. And that was the drive behind putting this together, along with the various people that I've spoken to around the world.
Okay. Anybody else have a little question that's been floating around in their minds and they're ready to ask it? No, I just get to keep on going asking questions. So
Okay, I have a question. I
what
do have a question.
is that you, Dana? There
Yes.
you are. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
finally found the raise your hand. I know, you all, both of you shared your creative process and what you do, whether it's exercise or finding an early part of the morning to get your creative juices flowing. I'd like to know how do you handle when the juices are not flowing? It's often called writer's block. What do you do when you've gotten into that space, yet still, you have a ways to go in your writing journey?
So Kristina, you want to take a pass at that one first?
Yes, yes. And of course, that's one of the most difficult questions, Dana, for all of us who write. I get outside. I have to get outside. I don't care if it's 10 degrees here in Salt Lake City. I have to get outside and, I don't know, get the vitamin D going or something, but breathe fresh air or completely shut off the thought. I have to deliberately put myself in a different mindset by going outside and enjoying nature, looking at nature and being thankful for what I see around me, and restart that way.
Stephanie, what's the restart button for you?
The restart button for me is getting away. What really gets my juices flowing, I love going to the cabin, love to do that. But oftentimes you just can't up and go and say, I want to go to the cabins right now to get inspired. So nature inspires me. I'll go to the park. I'll take a walk in the park, greenery, trees, water, and just reflecting, and then reading my Bible helps me get back in that space. Sometimes I don't feel like reading my Bible. I don't feel like praying. I don't feel like doing anything. I'm in a place in my space. However, getting to nature typically helps bring me back to writing.
Okay, I'm curious. So now I have a question for all of you on the screen in the room, so to speak. So how many of you find getting into nature in some way helps with the creative process? Just raise a personal hand. Okay, it looks like that is something that maybe we want to share with other authors who are trying to figure out how to get started, is take yourself out for a walk around the block, if nothing else, and see how that shakes things up in your thinking. Now, speaking of thinking about other people who want to be authors. Oh, Gloria, your hand's still up. So one more question before I roll forward.
Yeah, I do. Can I call on another person in our audience as an author that I think has an interesting story along the lines of what the inspiration was?
Sure. But Yes, but let's be mindful
Okay.
of our time too. So who do you want to put on the spot that didn't know they were being interviewed this morning?
Michael, would you share your story? You went from teaching to authoring.
Okay, Lainey, time me. How long have I got? A minute? You want a
Got
minute?
about 2 minutes. Let's call it 2
I
minutes,
want
Michael.
I won't take 2 minutes. So life broke me, and I was a primary school teacher, and I worked far too hard. And we had a death of somebody who's one of the closest people ever to me. I've got his picture there. Stephanie, I know what you're talking about when you talk about inspiration and praying, stuff like that. But what it was life. It was like pre-COVID 10 years ago. Life kind of going, hey, what are you doing with your life? You need to make some changes. So just like we experienced with COVID, I had about 11, 12 years ago. And then it changed to what I call living on purpose. So suddenly just like the dam just broke and everything just poured out. And it was one of the most beautiful things ever, but it was also one of the most difficult things ever, you know? That's why when Kristina, we talking about COVID, it's the same thing. Life is happening to you, and a writer grasps that and go, right, I'm going to do something with it. So there you go. That's the short version.
Thank you, Michael. And I'd say that for those of you who don't know Michael, he now is a coach as well as an author, a very caring guy. So in a way, your difficult moment in life has benefited a lot of people because you've brought that forward. And I think that's true for our authors who are featured today, who have brought a lot to other people through their writing. So one question for you is, what would you suggest to someone who's interested in writing a book? Because I suspect that people listening to the recording of this are looking for, I have a book idea. How do I get started? What do I do? And I think it's for those people that also inspired Gloria to start this program. And Dana, you do that all the time. So, Stephanie, first what would you share, one thing to share with someone who's thinking about writing a book?
I would suggest they get a coach. The only reason why is because there's a lot of things that I did some missteps that people may not know. And so therefore you do a lot of repetition. And so, even if it's a coach, if it's not a program, speak to other authors to find out, to get some tidbits, right? And be able to create some resources, files that you can utilize. And don't give up even when you feel, don't compare yourself to others. You may not be that author yet, but it's not about you being that somebody else's author. It's about being your genuine self. And that's what I would recommend to new writers.
I think that's such an important point, is be true to yourself. Even if you don't know exactly who you are, don't try to write like another author, even one that you love, because it's your voice that people are going to be drawn to. And
Yeah.
Kristina, what would you suggest?
Just write. Just do it. You know, the old Nike slogan, right? Just put it down on paper. It doesn't have to be perfect. It probably will not be exactly what is in your head, but just get it on paper or on the laptop as quickly as you can. And then as you start to solidify this, I agree with so many things that Stephanie said. If you can get guidance, get help from whoever you can, whether or not they're experienced. If they're readers, they're experienced. They can give you great feedback. So get the feedback, but look at what other people have done. There are a ton of books out there on how to write, how to do this. I didn't use that, but the point is, there are resources that may match your way of thinking. And if it is a step-by-step guide, if I had known Dana, and I still need to take her course now that I know about it, find people that can help you be your best self. And that means, being critical of you too, but people that you trust to be critical in a way that is beneficial for you. But don't stop, just get it on paper and don't compare, and don't worry about it being you're going to become a millionaire from it, because that happens to very few of us. And so the point is, get it out there and trust that go in faith that your book will reach the audience that you want it to.
I think you made an important point in there. I think it was about, can you take me back about, don't worry if people are critical? Is that what you said? That's what I heard.
Yeah, and that's hard because people will be critical. Just plan on it. And I think that was one of the things that tripped me up at the very first. It was so hard to take the criticism, but people are always going to be critical, and that's their thing, and it's on you. And if you produce the authentic work that both you and Stephanie talked about, then you feel good about your work. You know it's something out there, and you have gotten that creative piece in the place where you want it.
And it helps to have a view of who you think your reader is going to be. When you hear the criticism, you can always go back to, I have this vision of my reader, and even if it's just one person, I want them to hear my message. You have to believe, I think you have to believe that so deeply in your spirit. And to be able to sort out, when you get the criticism, is it valid, or is this person just giving you a headache and never mind? And that's sometimes pretty tricky. I see the smiles on your faces. So, and Gloria, yeah, everybody's smiling with this. Yeah, we know about that. So listen, but evaluate. How would that be? Now,
I have something I would like to add, Lainey, if that's okay.
please.
Less than a minute. Kristina mentioned about $1 million, you know, you may not make that. What I look at is how many lives I've impacted. And that's priceless. $1 million is not compared to someone that I encouraged and they were probably thinking of harming themselves, or they didn't know, they wanted to say something that they shouldn't have say at work or to a person, and they read something in my book that inspired them to pray about it or pray for the person that's trying to hurt them. That's more powerful to me than me making $1 million.
I agree completely. That one person can make all the difference. Who cares if you sell 1 million copies, but if you make a life difference in one person, it's worth it.
Yep. I see a lot of people nodding at that. And that's what keeps us going as authors, isn't it? When we have that vision. And with that strong vision, I'm wondering if either of you or both of you are planning on writing another book. Stephanie, you're smiling, so I'm wondering.
Gloria will be pleased to know I am writing another book, and the 90-day to manuscript has helped garner that. And I will have my book released. I thought it would be in November, but it may be at the end of November. I have my new book that's coming out. I won't share the title just yet because I need to go ahead and get that trademark. But it's already in the process of writing. The illustration, my designer of the image on the book is happening already. I'm going to have some colorful pages inside the book. And that's just a short book to the next book, the massive book that's going to happen. And that's happening in 2025, right in February, around my birthday. There is the best time to push a book because you'll get more sales. However, the one that comes out in February, not saying I don't want sales, it has a special, it's dear to my heart because my first book came out around my birthday, which was in February. And I'm with this other larger book to come out in February. So one will be out in December and one will be out in February. So I'm doing 2 books simultaneously.
That is a crazy woman. I mean, really remarkable to be able to do 2 at the same time. So I can tell everybody mark Author's Corner in February so we can hear Stephanie talk about her new book. So we can
No, December. The one's coming out in December. One's coming out
Yes,
in
ma'am.
December. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I was kind of stuck on the birthday.
I know.
So December and February, we can
Yes.
celebrate new books.
Yes.
Kristina, new book on the launch pad?
Yeah, I actually started it a couple of weeks ago by request. It's a bit of a supplement to Culture Spin. It's more of a quick start cheat sheet. I don't really have the little catchphrase for it, but it's a quick reference guide to operating in particular cultures. And I had a person that I'm collaborating with on a business thing in Texas ask me to write the supplement, and I thought that's a great idea. I'll do it, and it'll be lighthearted and fun.
Do we have a target date? When are you coming back?
I'm looking at November as well. So
Whoa, soon. This
yeah.
is, think about holiday gifting, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen. Holiday gifting. We don't have to go far to have an idea about holiday gifting.
Absolutely.
So I think that we have asked you a lot of questions today. And on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you for your generosity of sharing so much about why you wrote, what you wrote, how you think about it, all the things that we can all learn from. I'm sure everybody else will share with me, having been inspired by both of you today. And on behalf of everybody, I'm going to thank you very much and turn the program back to Dana to tell us about what's coming next. And wait, before we do that, everybody, hands together, old-fashioned hands together. Thank you to our authors. It's been a really wonderful start to a morning. Okay, now I'm turning it back to you, Dana.
Hey, I tried to snap a picture of the hands together. I think I managed to get 70%. But first, let me just say, wow. You know, the only way we can express how magical and meaningful this author series was is wow, you know? And it really takes a great facilitator, even if you have phenomenal authors, which we do, but it takes a great facilitator. And Gloria has set the example for us over the years. As you notice, she's still asking all the right questions and pulling Michael in. And I will say that we want to say thank you to each of you all first. Thank you, Lainey. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Kristina, and each of you esteemed audience members. And I have a question for you, but before I get to that, I was so moved to tears with Michael's story. And Michael also shows up. He has a blog. And he also, he's become a coach. So your stories are going to come from 3 areas, guys. It's so obvious. It's going to come from pain, purpose, or passion. That's it. Or sometimes it could be a combination of all 3. But what Gloria asked, and I know she has a comment, so I'm going to leave a minute for her. The question Gloria asked is what was going on in your life at the time really speaks to those 3 points. You're passionate about something or something painful, or you were disappointed and you're writing from that. Or this is your calling. God has called you to this. You know this is what you're called to do. And there were several points made in the chat, and I've tried to keep up. I'm the chat box today. I'm a real live chat box. So Dr. Pauline Crawford, welcome. I think this is your first Global Chamber Author series. We're delighted to have you here. And she's made several comments. And so I wanted to read a few, talking about who's going to read your material. She goes, often your closest family will not like that you have shared your life thoughts in writing. Still, go forth. That's her comment. And then Michael, these women are very inspiring and genuine. So what resonates with people is when you're genuine and you're authentic, okay? And then Dr. Pauline Crawford again, believe in yourself, in your writings, and don't compare with others. There's so much noise because but trust the authentic voice. I've got to break down more than 3 syllables. You can save the chat. You do know that with the 3 dots to the right, you can click save chat and go back and read the notes. Of course, the recording will be available. So I have to tell you what's coming up next, and then Gloria is going to chime in. So next month, the 3rd Wednesday, 11 o'clock Eastern time, we have another phenomenal speaker who's online with us. But stay tuned because we don't like to just tell you everything. November. So next month is a workshop. She's going to be presenting a workshop. Every other month it's speakers and then a workshop. And the following month, we have already 2 Global Chamber Author that will be on the panel. And we feature global chamber authors in our speakers panel. So that's another benefit or perk. You get to come before audience. And then the final month, I will tell you that one of those authors is also on the line today. I don't know if he's well, I don't know if he's showing up right there, but anyway. And then at the end of the year, we have a workshop next month. So on the third Wednesday, what I believe is the 18th of December, we have that as well. What I shared in the link is something that we use with our writers as a platform for writing, and it's called Blixie. And I shared my affiliate link. Next month when we do our workshop, we'll kind of roll it out there. But if you want to take a look at it or use our link, you can do that. We're excited. And I want to thank our core members who helped to support this from beginning to end, their ideas and even their patience. Alex is on, so we want to wave at you, Alex. Thank you. Gloria, our founding members, Lainey's on. And if you're interested in becoming a part of our Global Chamber Author Series for core members, let us know and we'll just kind of roll you out in the beginning of the new year. You got to be an active Global Chamber member and an author, or want to be one. We can help you get that done. All right, we've got 5 minutes left. And I want to give Gloria the floor and then Doug.
Okay, I'm just going to take a few minutes here, but I want you to think of your writings as your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have something that you've experienced, knowledge that you like to share, and you want it to live on beyond you, that's why you write. That's why I write.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. How many authors do we have in the audience? You can do it by raise a hand or in the chat. Wow. And for those who we don't see your visual, you can put it in the chat. And if this is why we do this. We give you the skills on how you can not just become one, but to collaborate and write books together. You've got people right here. Stephanie and Kristina have synergy already, right? And many of us too. Thank you, Doug. It's on you.
Well, wait a minute. We have Nicole has her hand up.
Oh, yes, she's an author. She raised her hand for that. Yes.
Oh, okay, got it.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, ladies. That was amazing and inspiring and informative. I see the next conversation is, I just called it up, October 16th. And Dana, you said, is that a workshop or is that a conversation?
Yes, it's a workshop.
It is. Okay. So we'll change that. Oh, no, it does say author workshops. 5 a.m. Pacific time. Oh my God.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
October 16th.
No, it's 11 a.m. It's 11 a.m.
11 a.m.
It'll be
Which
8
time?
o'clock. It'll be 8 o'clock for us if it's 11 o'clock for Dana.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure that time is 11 a.m. Now, I will say that early on in the year when we were continuing with the author series, we were trying to, one of my goals was to try to get some people live in Global Chamber beyond the pond in the UK. So like Asia, different parts of, well, I know India is Asia too, but we were trying to get people live there. So we were doing it 8 at night. So they were getting them in the morning. So December, we may end up doing that one in the evening because we're looking to finalize one of our guest speakers who's in India. And I just think it's only fair that we not ask him to be up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
to meet our needs. And if you're not on live at 8 p.m., you can listen to it in a recording. Thank each of you for your time. The one bit of advice I have for you as you go forward as a part of this community and this tribe is that let's talk to one another and connect because you've got resources right here, like definitely. And as Kristina said, write on, just write. Have a great one.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lainey.